Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Talking Phase podcast. Pam, how are you today?
I am doing great today, Tom. It's a beautiful day here in Raleigh, North Carolina. How are you doing today?
You know, it is a fabulous day. I see you've got a new microphone.
Yes, I'm very excited about this. I was listening back to our first couple podcasts, and my voice quality just didn't sound as good as yours. And you know that I'm a competitive person, and so I needed it to be better. And so I ordered this yesterday in time for today.
Fantastic. It sounds great. So
thank you.
Look at us getting all professional.
We're trying. We sure are.
Well, so I'll tell you what have you, anything fun going on in your life right now?
Well, at this moment, I am getting ready for an awesome day at the pool today with my daughter and a couple of good girlfriends. And we are going to spend it outside. It is going to be 90 degrees today in Raleigh. And so I think we'll be spending most of the day in the pool. But I love those days the most. I have a great group of friends and I love to spend time with them, whether it's at the pool or out for an evening. So I'm really, really excited to get out there. Not as excited as I am about this podcast.
Well, I was going to say, come on, it sounds like you're putting us down, but I will tell you something interesting you just said that I've always thought's funny. You know, Brian and I are really good friends. And if Brian and I were going to the pool today, I would not say my boyfriend and I are going to the pool.
I would hope not.
Well, I guess we live in a world of double standards.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, I as I tend to do on the regular, I fell asleep last night watching Game of Thrones. I'm rewatching Game of Thrones right now because, I realized that it took me about 3 attempts to totally get into it, years ago. I'm not really into the fantasy, crap. I'm just not really into it. But so it took me a while, but once I got into it, I was addicted. But it was during the time that my now ex-wife Trinity was having an affair. And so I wasn't able to pay a lot of attention to it. Let's put it that way.
You were very distracted. I can see that would be a problem.
It was and it was a nice distraction, but I was distracted from Game of Thrones. And so as I'm sitting here watching this, it's like seeing it for the first time. I remember nothing about this show.
Which is crazy to me. It's crazy to me because I've watched Game of Thrones 3 times and it feels like after the first time it was just etched into my mind. It's probably my favorite show of all time. And so I understand rewatching it. I'm actually a little jealous that you're only watching it again for the second time because the next time I watch it, it'll be for the 4th time. I'm trying to get Zach to watch it. I'm trying to get my son is 21. His name is Zach. And I'm trying to get him to watch Game of Thrones with me. And he downright refuses, which is crazy because we went to Croatia last year and Zach actually saw where all of the scenes were filmed in Dubrovnik. And we tried so hard to get him to watch Game of Thrones before we went to Dubrovnik and he would not do it. And he even sat on the actual Iron Throne in Dubrovnik. You have to take a ferry over from the main city to a small island that's like a park preserve, and they have the Iron Throne as an exhibition there. And so we all have pictures from Croatia sitting on the Iron Throne. And it's so great.
I've learned something today. I didn't know that it was filmed in Croatia.
Shame. That's where the steps are, the shame steps.
You got to ring the bell. Yes, I just watched that episode yesterday. By the way, for those that are Game of Thrones fans, I'd be interested in your opinion on this, but Tyrion Lannister is the greatest character in the whole show.
And probably ever. I would go so far. One of the greatest characters in the history of especially TV shows.
I'm going to go with Walter White is the best character of all time.
I have a love-hate relationship with Breaking Bad, but
I think we all
have a love. I heard, I don't know if you've heard this, but the guy, Peter Dinklage, that plays Tyrion, I'm told is not the nicest guy in real life from people who have had to work with him on the show and in other movies. He has a pretty big temper, which is not hard to believe if you've watched Game of Thrones.
So he's like Chevy Chase, just 4 feet shorter.
Or Kevin Costner these days on Yellowstone. There's always
you're pretty down on him.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed. I'm waiting for Yellowstone to come back, and it's taking forever. And he won't be in the last half of the last season because they're fighting about probably money. If I had to guess. But on the subject of Game of Thrones, a lot of people are watching House of the Dragon right now. I am rewatching that for a second time because season 2 of that comes out in, I think, 10 days, and I am stoked for House of the Dragon. It's not Game of Thrones. I still, it hasn't gotten to the point where it can compete, but it's a fantastic copycat. I feel very much like I'm back in that land. So,
Well, I'm looking forward to that for sure. I
I'm
haven't.
looking forward to you watching that.
So yeah, we'll talk about that when it comes up. Well, I'll
Good.
tell you what. The other thing is, for those who don't know, Pam is a personal trainer, and we were chatting earlier this week about physical fitness, and I have a pretty strict workout regimen that I follow, but it's mostly cardio. And she was saying, you need to step up your game on strength training a little bit. So
We
she
want him to
was,
build some muscle.
Hell yeah.
yeah,
Get some of that bulk going. He's lost
Yeah.
all that weight. Now we're going to build him up.
yeah, gonna gain it all back, but in muscle this time, right?
Yeah.
But no, so thanks to Pam, she's got me on this workout regimen, and just started yesterday. And I'm gonna tell you right now, my arms are fucking killing me
I
this
meant
morning.
to ask you about that. I was hoping they'd at least be a little bit sore by today.
Yeah. Last night I was you asked me yesterday if they were sore, and they were not, but today, oh, you betcha. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's the first step. That's the first tiny little layer of muscle forming there.
Oh, thank you that it's a tiny little layer of muscle. That's
Well,
flattering.
Yeah. It's going to get bigger. It's going to grow.
That's what she said.
I know. Yeah, it's going to get bigger and better. This is my whole life dream right here. It's going to get bigger and better. And
Oh, that's
take
great.
it how you will. There's my life in a sentence: bigger and better.
Awesome. Well, okay. Should we anything else we need to bring up for our that's cool this week?
No, I think that that's a pretty good recap of the last few days. And since both of us are spending a lot of time watching TV right now, probably a little anticlimactic. But if you're watching Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, you know why we're so excited about those shows.
Yeah. And I'll just put one more plug in for Breaking Bad, greatest TV show ever made.
Nah,
All right.
nah.
Well, that's why the good
greatest
Lord
show for men.
well, that's why the good Lord made chocolate and vanilla.
That's true. And actually, yeah, that good point. We don't both have to love it.
Yeah, exactly. And that part is not a competition. Well, I guess it is if you watch like whatever those stupid award shows are, which I never understood why anyone watches them. But
And they both did pretty well. So
yeah. Well, okay. With that, guys, welcome to the show once again. Thank you guys out there for listening. Thank you for your ratings and your reviews. It has been so incredible to see the growing audience that we have. And thank you for doing that. Please keep sharing this with your friends and family. Ratings and reviews are the fastest way to grow the show and get attention to it. But if your friends and family can do the same thing, oh my gosh, it just helps a lot. I don't understand it.
please.
Yeah. I don't know how it works. The algorithmic gods of the podcast heavens, they decide all that somehow. But we do this every week. Our show drops every Friday morning at 8:00 Eastern, give or take. But yeah, please share that. And I can tell you right now, we have a really cool show today, and I can tell you, I know I speak for Pam as well when I say that
Hey, don't speak for me.
well, okay, then Pam doesn't love it when so many people slide into our DMs and send us emails.
That's my favorite. Well, it's not my favorite part, but reading some of those letters has become definitely some of my favorite part. And the fact that they started coming in so quickly after we started to record and send out our first podcast means that a lot of people have a lot of, we'll just call them issues for lack of a better word.
Yeah. And even though we're not experts, quite frankly,
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well, once again, apparently Pam is an expert at everything we're going to be talking about today. I am not an expert, but I have opinions. So even though, again, I don't think we're really experts, you guys, for some reason, seem to like what we have to say. So keep those messages coming, and we'll do our best to give our advice. And if your email isn't too long and doesn't go into too much excruciating detail, we may choose to read it on the show, just like we're going to do today. So
not too much excruciating detail.
yeah, I mean, there's, it's, reading some of these emails, it's like, wow, that was TMI.
Well, but those are sometimes the most entertaining ones. So we can always edit some of those things out, and still read it on the show. So don't hesitate to write what's on your mind. At least you'll be entertaining us, even if you're not entertaining other people.
Yeah, that's true. Well, speaking of reading those emails on the show, so Pam and I, we were talking earlier this week as we were preparing to record today. We thought it would be fun if we both picked one really good or bad, depending on your point of view, really one good or bad email to read on the show. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So Pam, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
Well,
You've got mail.
Wow. Actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and read mine first. It's been on my mind a lot since it came in. I knew that it was going to be something that we read on the show, so I'm just going to get to it. It says, Pam and Tom, I've seen Tom discussing cheating on TikTok, and I know that his wife cheated on him. And when I read that, I thought to myself, I think Tom's going to need to give a brief recap of his story before I go on with the rest of the email.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see how brief I can make this. So, married for 14 years or so, found out that she was having an affair with one of our coworkers. Confronted her about it as soon as I found out. The story could go on for hours. In fact, if you look at our TikTok channel and go back in time and look at our TikTok channel, you can see hundreds of videos about this. So again, it's not something you can tell in 2 minutes with enough detail to make it entertaining. But bottom line is I found out she had an affair, and it was a physical affair, and it had been going on for 6 months. I didn't think I had it in me, but I chose to forgive her and go to counseling, and we were going to, work it out. And so we did for quite a while, and I thought we were doing great. We both changed. We left that company and actually ended up working for another company. And about 2 years or so after I found out about her first affair, so 2.5 years after she started her first affair, she started having another affair, but the second one was an emotional affair. The guy lived thousands of miles away. To my knowledge, they were not, having a physical affair. It would have been tough. They might have been able to pick it into, fit it into a weekend here or there, but I don't think they did. But anyway, so she had a physical affair for 6 months, then an emotional affair for about 6 months. And then that's when things fell apart. And I'm going to tell you, it sucked. And the emotional shame. Game of Thrones bell. I need the bell.
Yeah, for sure.
So yes, she did cheat on me twice that I'm aware of. There you go. I don't know. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. So you said that you talked about that a lot on TikTok. Do you feel like that was a way that you healed from the affair, was telling the story on TikTok and getting people involved in it and seeing what they thought?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the parts of the story, when I found out about her first affair, I have a friend who, actually a therapist who said that I needed to have, a support system. Who should I talk to? And my brother is my best friend. And so I said, I'll talk to my brother. And she said, oh no, don't talk to Dave. He'll hate me. Now, like a moron, I said, oh, okay. And so then I said, well, let me talk to my buddy Marco. And she says, no, don't tell Marco. He'll tell everyone. Okay. So I go down the list and I end up like 8th down my list. And so I didn't, and I talked to him one time, and, he's not that close of a friend. And so I really didn't have a support system. So when it happened the second time, I told her, I said, look, I'm not going to try to embarrass you, but I am not going to carry your sins on my shoulders this time.
No. And why should she have ever had a say in who you talked to about what she did wrong? There was a clear villain in this story, and the villain should not have had anything to do with leading where you got help or who you talked to. That's right. My 2 cents.
I agree 100%. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20. And I often say that I don't regret at all forgiving her. What I regret is allowing her to dictate the terms of the forgiveness.
Well, I'm sure that you learned a lot.
Oh yeah.
Living through that. All right. Well, I'll go back to the letter. I just think that people needed to hear a little bit of background on you. And in future podcast episodes, I'm sure that we can kind of delve more into those types of stories and your story also.
Sure. Happy to share that one.
So this writer said, I am in a similar position and thought you both would be able to give me some advice. She clearly knew I was the expert.
Right.
I've been married for 6 years and we have one child. Our marriage has always seemed solid to me. For the past 6 months, my husband has been working longer hours and spending time with new friends.
Uh-oh.
I wasn't too, yeah, right. Red flag. I wasn't too worried, but lately I have felt a shift in his desire for intimacy. And he doesn't return my text when he's out for hours sometimes, which like, honestly, all you have to do is be on social media to know that those are two of the biggest, if not the actual biggest red flags in
Not
America.
to mention, I'll tell you right now, my heart is squeezing. It's like literally pounding in my chest hearing this.
So you have experience with this. She wrote, I feel terrible, but I looked at his computer and I found a folder with hundreds of emails between him and a woman I've never met that make it clear that he is cheating on me, which is, you know, I don't blame her one bit. Have you ever done that, Tom, when your wife was having an affair? Did you feel that rift getting bigger? Did you ever check her computer or her phone?
Well, it's funny because the first affair, and again, hopefully I learned a little bit on the second one. And of course, there are people out there right now going, well, there shouldn't have ever been a second one. You should have walked away. Blah, blah. And you know what? Obviously, again, hindsight's 20/20.
It's your life.
Exactly. But here's the deal. So looking back, you can look back and say, oh, now I see it. But at the time, I had no reason, at least in my head, I didn't have any reason to be suspicious. And so, but I look back now, or look back then even, and I go, oh my gosh. So her phone was like glued to her hip. She never let it sit anywhere that I might be able to see it. There was a time that she showed me something on her phone, like, I don't know what it was, a video or something. And I'm looking at this video and a snap came in.
Oh,
I didn't even know she was on Snapchat. And
like WhatsApp, that's where they go.
Right.
They don't want a record. It's.
And she saw it come in or heard the sound or whatever it was. And she just grabbed the phone out of my hand. And I said, what was that? And again, I wasn't suspicious of anything at the time. And she told me it was some makeup tutorial lady that she follows on Snapchat. And I'm like, oh, okay.
God forbid you see that, because you don't want to know how she gets pretty.
Right. So yeah, looking back, like I wasn't attempting to see anything. But when affair number 2 rolled around, I started noticing again, phone glued to her hip. Because during the ensuing 2 years, the phone was sitting on the counter, phone was sitting on the couch, or whatever. And then you start noticing it, and that was like the first thing for me. And anyway, it's a longer story that we'll get into at another point.
I get it though. I think that once you've been hurt, I think a lot of people are jealous by nature, but once you've been hurt and once somebody has already been caught cheating, as far as I'm concerned, you have an open computer and an open phone policy where there's no passwords on those. And if you can't do that, I'm done. And I don't have a personal experience, but like, that doesn't mean I didn't look at my husband's computer when we were married and find other things that I found equally discouraging. And it's just no way to have a relationship.
Well, let me tell you one other thing real quick.
Oh, please.
So after affair number 1, and I never felt the need to have an open computer policy because I didn't have any suspicions, but we agreed after affair number 1, passwords are open. I knew what her email was and I could get into her email. I never did check it because I wanted to trust her. Well, and 2 years into it, when she starts having this emotional affair and I'm thinking, oh shit, what's going on? I went and I checked her email one day and there was nothing. And I didn't know what that meant.
She'd gotten smarter.
Yeah. She created a new email.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're not built to get caught. I'll tell you, unless you're just a dummy, you're going to do everything you can to not get caught unless that's what you're hoping to have happen. So
yep.
I'm sorry that happened to you, but it's made you who you are today, and who you are today is pretty fantastic. So I'm glad you came out on the other side a little bit strong, not a little bit, a lot stronger.
Absolutely.
from what she did. And if TikTok and making those videos helped, I think that you created an open dialogue for so many people that were going through the same thing, that found what you were talking about relatable, that all you've done since she did that to you was help yourself and help other people. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
What this woman goes on to say is, I'm heartbroken and terrified because I don't want to lose my husband. And I tried to talk to him about what I found, but he swears it's just a friend and that they are just quote unquote fantasizing. And he's definitely not leaving me. And then she wrote, she's married too. She
Ugh.
finishes the email by saying, I saw the TikTok you made on physical and emotional affairs, and clearly he's having one or the other. He promises me he'll stop emailing her, but won't give me any details because he doesn't want to get her, in capital letters, in trouble.
Oh,
He is
boy.
willing to go to therapy. He says he loves me and is so sorry and insists nothing physical happened. But how will I trust him again? And should I? And she signed it, a broken-hearted wife.
Oh.
You know, my first question to you, Tom, would be, how do you know if your spouse is lying about whether they're having a physical affair or an emotional affair? Of course, everybody says, no, I didn't do it. I remember when somebody said, I did not sleep with that woman,
Right.
you know, or have sex with that woman, you know, how do you know?
Yeah, well, you don't, obviously. I mean, and by the way, even if you're not suspicious, and I hate to break this to everyone out there, even if you have no suspicion whatsoever, your spouse might be sleeping with someone.
36%. Ashley Madison documentary says 36% in committed relationships are having an affair.
Yeah. So if you have two friends that are married and you're all sitting there together and you look to the right and to the left, one of the three of you statistically is having an affair.
Or maybe has had an affair.
Okay, whatever.
I don't know which. I prefer to think has had an affair, you know, and I prefer to think that those stats are high. I mean, again, it was an Ashley Madison documentary on Netflix that I watched. I found it very unnerving.
I have no data to back this up. I think they're low.
Oh God. Well, that's a shame. I mean, that's clearly the time we're living in. A broken-hearted wife is probably walking around with the biggest pit in her stomach, trying to figure out whether she should save this marriage or walk away from it. My advice, I'm going to be quite frank, would be to go to therapy, but know that when you go to therapy, that you need to now watch every single thing that your husband does. Once somebody has opened themselves up to an affair, whether it's emotional or physical, I don't know how you ever go back to having 100% trust in that person. So I personally would not give him another chance. She's already caught him. He clearly had feelings for this woman to have hundreds of emails. So I probably would be leaning towards a divorce lawyer.
Well, wow. You went
Yeah,
all the way right there. Good.
That's how
Good
I
on you.
feel.
Well, here's the thing. So if I remember the letter, she said that, and I think I even grunted in the microphone here when she said it, that she wanted some details, but he won't give them to her because he doesn't want to give his affair he doesn't want to get his affair partner in trouble.
Yeah, that's exactly what it says. He says he won't give any details because he doesn't want to get her, in capital letters, in trouble, which is disgusting to me.
Yeah, fuck him. Here's
Right.
the deal. He made a vow to his wife. She's the important one. He made promises to his wife and he owes his wife. He doesn't owe his affair
Right.
partner anything. And neither does, what did she sign? A broken-hearted wife. The wife does not owe this affair partner shit. And if this guy has 1 ounce of desire to save this marriage, screw that. I mean, he needs to fess up. He needs to come entirely clean. If he doesn't give details, I guess I'm with you. If he won't give details, get out, because he clearly doesn't resent or have enough remorse to make a difference.
No, it sounds to me like he's definitely prioritizing this other woman over his wife. And, you know, I don't know whether the other woman is married or single or what her situation is, but I'm guessing she's married and he figures he's gotten caught, but he doesn't want to screw up her marriage. So
I think the letter said she was married.
well,
I
Well,
think I grunted at that too.
it
I
does
remember
say
my
she is
grunts.
married too, but I don't know. I guess I just wonder how much you can trust anything that comes out of his mouth at this point. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I would have a really hard time coming back from that kind of factual black and white information that I'd had to read.
Yeah. Pam, have you ever been cheated on?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Probably, according to the stats, I've had enough relationships, but no, I don't. I've never caught anybody. I'm not a good PI.
Okay. So what about your friends? You say you've got this big friend group. Do your girlfriends talk
Um,
about being cheated on or cheating on others?
Not really, no. I mean, I think that, most of the people that I'm friends with that have gone through divorces, the divorce was more because of the way that they were treated. They were married to somebody who had very narcissistic personalities, or, they just didn't get along, or they were fighting. But nobody specific. Well, I have one friend, her name is Marcia, and yes, she did say that her husband was very successful and that he had had multiple affairs. But she stayed with him until she couldn't stay anymore. And we've never really delved into that. I told you that my friend group is relatively new, and I try really hard to not be super nosy about things that they don't volunteer.
Well, let's play a little thought experiment, and I'd like the audience, our listeners, to think about this as well. And maybe some people actually have experience with this, so you don't even have to imagine it. But let's say you go out with your girlfriends tonight. You said you're going out tonight with everyone, right? Or with a few of them.
Yes.
And let's say one of them pulls you aside and says, "Pam, I need to talk to you." And I've started an affair. So one of your friends is now cheating on her husband or boyfriend. And she said, "I don't know what to do." What do you say? How do you respond?
Well, for better or worse, I'm a really supportive friend. You really put me on the spot with that one. If that happened, I would probably be more concerned for my friend than for the person that she's having the affair with or their significant other, because I don't know them. And I think that, yes, there are a lot of self-righteous people who would say, "Oh, I would tell my friend she needs to absolutely stop that right now." But I'm not sure I believe that's 100% honest. I think that when somebody is a good friend to you and they're sharing something that's very intimate that they've done with you, the last thing that I do is judge them, unless it's something that I can feel, I don't know, is going to like physically cause them harm as opposed to emotionally cause them harm. I'm a much better listener than I am a condemner of somebody who is making a bad decision.
All right, I'm going to take it one step further.
Okay.
So tonight she tells you she's having an affair, and tomorrow afternoon, she and her partner, not her affair partner, but her boyfriend or husband, is now at your house for dinner.
Oh, well, I would hate that. I won't have him over until she's done with the affair.
So let me tell you the reason I asked that, because when I found out about Trinity's first affair, and for those who don't know, Trinity is the fake name that I've assigned to my ex-wife so that I don't dox her or anything. When I found out about Trinity's first affair, I then also found out that her sister and three of her best friends that she hangs out with all the time had all known about it literally since the first day. So over those 6 months that she was having that affair, I spent Thanksgiving and Christmas with her sister. We'd been out to dinner with a couple of her friends 2 or 3 times, and they were all sitting there and never said a word. They knew it. And that is as embarrassing and as soul destroying as the fact that I didn't even notice that my wife was having an affair. And so I'm just going to say I go completely the other side. I try to be supportive of my friends, but I also try to have people in my life that I respect. And I don't.
But what would you have
respect
had them
people.
do if they were
Tell me.
if they're her friends and not, they're closer to her than you, or you've met them by default through her, you would have had her friends just ring you up and say, "Hey, Tom, I just wanted you to know that Trinity's having an affair."
Absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, if a friend of mine, and this is a fair warning to anyone out there that's a friend of mine, if you tell me you're having an affair, I don't protect cheaters. I will tell your spouse, period.
And I would probably feel differently if I was in your shoes, I would feel differently. I would love to believe that I would do that for somebody, but just like all of those people who were sitting in your home knew and didn't tell you, I think that that's the norm. It doesn't make it any more acceptable. It's just where our comfort. What?
They're co-conspirators.
Yeah. I mean, I of course, from your perspective, I 100% agree. And, I will sit here and tell you that, like, if it happened today, like, I would definitely tell him. I'm lucky that it's not happening today, that I don't know of anybody that's doing that. And quite honestly, I'd probably be lying if I said that.
Said what?
If I said I would tell the woman's husband, unless I was maybe as close friends with him as I was with her. And even then, I think I would tell her that she needs to tell him. And I would give that advice anyway. If somebody was having an affair and they were unhappy in their marriage, my first bit of advice after listening would be end the marriage. I mean, it's never made a lot of sense to me to stay in a marriage where you're unhappy enough to cheat, as opposed to just ending the marriage. Go be with that person you want to be with, or date, or be single, or whatever. You don't need to drag somebody around behind you.
Yeah. But before you make that choice, make sure that you're not leaving a good thing for, it goes back to that 90-10 theory that we talked about, that, if 90% of your marriage is great and you're having an affair to try and fix the 10% that isn't great, unless that affair partner is going to fill 90% plus 10%, are you giving up the 90 just to fill the 10 is what I'm saying.
Oh, so you're saying that the person who is having the affair should think really hard about having the affair, or the person who's been cheated on should think about not divorcing that person over what you call the 10%, which I would think would then become the 90% if they're having an affair?
I'm saying that the cheater needs to think hard before, because the grass isn't always greener. Just be
Amen
real
to
careful
that.
about that. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, I feel horrible for this woman. I wouldn't wish that feeling or that situation, that scenario. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
No,
it just is a horrible place. I've been there and it sucks. And yes, I've grown. Yes, I've learned, blah, blah, blah. But I'd be happy if I never had to learn this shit.
And you may have been happier if you left after the first time and you didn't have to have it happen a second time. So my advice is going to stick with: get a therapist, get a divorce attorney, get out. Don't waste any more time with somebody who's willing to treat you like a second-class citizen. Find somebody that's going to make you a priority and make you the most important person in their life.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Pam, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to talk about something other than cheating.
Yeah, me too. Although that's a pretty deep subject, and I'm quite positive that a lot of people have dealt with it or are currently dealing with it.
Yeah, that was a doozy. But so I quite frankly, when I picked my email for this week, I thought it was kind of a serious subject, but what's something we could have a little fun with. But shit, that thing, that brought up some emotion. So
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's great. No, I am 100% willing to talk about what I've been through. I think it's therapeutic for me. And, I've been told on TikTok by a lot of people that it helps them. So that, I'm happy to keep doing it as long as people. Oh, thank you. Well, all right. So we get to my letter then.
I would love that.
All right.
You've got mail.
God.
I love it. All right. So we have to switch gears. So I want everybody to just turn off your cheating mindset. This letter has nothing to do with cheating or infidelity. At least I don't think so. Maybe, I guess we can feed infidelity into anything, I guess. So
I can't wait to hear it.
All right, let's go. Dear Pam and Tom, I love your show. It's already one of my favorite podcasts. Keep it up. Thank you. I mean,
we appreciate that.
Awesome. What a great way to start a letter. All right. So here's the letter. Here's my situation. My girlfriend and I met during my senior year in college, and she was a junior. I got a great gig in sales right after graduating and have paid most of our bills during her postgrad. We've always talked about getting married and having kids after she's done with school. So I guess you could say we're engaged, but we've never set an actual date or bought rings.
They're not engaged.
And you say that why? Because they haven't bought rings or set a date?
Yeah, you're only
Okay.
engaged when you ask somebody to marry you and put a ring on their finger, or at least ask.
I agree. I agree. I think it's interesting. People call each other, their fiance and stuff like that. But well, when's the date? I don't know. We
Right?
haven't
Like,
set one yet. Well,
this is definitely somebody who wants to pretend he was engaged. But go ahead, keep going.
okay. Let's see. We've never set an actual date about rings, but things have changed now that she's done with school. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay, okay, I'm going to keep going. Now she says she's not sure if she wants to get married and that she never wanted kids. And she just got a job offer in California that she wants to accept.
Wow, she's gotten what she needs from this guy.
That's what it feels like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I know I love her, and she says she loves me and wants to be with me, but I'm not sure anymore.
I wonder why he feels that way.
Right. I've invested almost 6 years into our relationship, and
Oh,
now she's changed her mind about all of our shared core values. I know I still want these things. Here's the crux. Should I cut my losses and hope
yes.
that the separation brings her to her senses,
Ugh.
or quit my job and move to California with her?
I feel actually kind of qualified as someone who just watched a friend literally go through this, but they didn't have a show like The Talking Face to listen to get advice. So one of my buddies from high school, he had gotten into a relationship very similar to this with a girl who they didn't really have many shared values. He had set up his life in Tennessee, had a phenomenal job making middle six figures, ended up getting together, and he paid off all of her student loans, and she wanted to move back to New York. And my friend was also from New York as well, but he had set up his new life in Tennessee. But he said, sure, let's go for it. I think this could work. Ends up moving up to New York from Tennessee. Within, I think, a couple months, they officially had the date to get married. And within 3 months, they were divorced because she did not have his values, did not believe in the relationship and the core principles of the relationship. Yeah, so I hear that kind of a story and my gut sinks because as one of the groomsmen for the wedding, we definitely had some very intense heart-to-hearts with my buddy, but he was set on, hey, I think we can make this work. And unfortunately, 3 months later, that was not the case. So I think this is very, very relevant. And frankly, it's a story that, it's a story that a lot of people can see themselves in. So just want to add that context.
Thank you,
appreciate
Brian.
that. And it does sound very similar to this letter. When I hear a letter like that, all I'm thinking, and your story too, Brian, all I'm thinking is, wow, these people just use somebody to get their bills paid, and they actually convince them to finance a move. And then, which I'm sure they already knew that they weren't really all in anymore, but they've done all that. And then they've said, hey, you know what? This isn't really working for me, but like, thanks for the free ride. I mean, that kind of thing just makes me feel sick to my stomach, because I wish there were more signs earlier so that person wouldn't have wasted so many years or gotten married or like pinned all of their hopes and dreams on somebody. Because quite honestly, this woman changing her core values says to me that she, maybe not in the beginning, but at least towards the end of that relationship, she was playing him. And
Yeah, well, that I was just going to ask, do you think, and Brian, since this is a real life thing that you actually saw happen, I've never seen this before, so I'm just speculating on a lot of this, but do you think that this, I mean, we don't have a lot of detail in this letter here, but does it feel like she changed early on? Has she been gaslighting him this entire time?
oh,
Or
I don't think so. I don't think
Actually,
so.
no, Pam, I think she was.
Well,
here's
we're
why.
talking. Are you talking about the letter and your situation, or?
Oh, I'm saying my situation with my buddy.
I'm kind of talking about the letter because,
Okay.
I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And honestly, when you start something and it's new and you're excited and you're in love, I think it's a lot easier to share the values of the person that you're quote unquote in love with, kind of to pretend to be something that you're not. And, as you get stronger, and as this woman continued her education and figured out what she wanted to do with her life, this man no longer fit into the puzzle. And so she says, hey, you can come with me, But I think what she's really saying is you can come with me, but you don't have to. Like,
And at least
I'm
she was
okay.
honest, right? Like, and that's where with my buddy,
No,
it really hurt because she wasn't honest. She was not forthright that she had no intention of making it work. She, to Tom's point, it just felt like was going out of her way to get her financial obligations taken care of. And then once that was all good, then she didn't need him anymore. And it just came across that she very much used him. And I mean, he spent all of his money for the wedding. There was nothing from her family side. He paid off her student loans. He paid off her car. Like all these things that he had gone out of his way to do, only it's literally the first day it was legally allowed for him or for them to get divorced, she divorced him. And that just, I mean, it, and he you know, in his mid 30s, just starting off his life and his family, it was crushing.
Well, his situation is far more disgusting because she allowed him to marry her. The person who wrote this letter, at least she's making these decisions prior to marrying him. Like she's doesn't want kids now all of a sudden. She's moving all of a sudden. So yeah, I think that this Scared in Chicago was the name that you gave me yesterday for the person who wrote this letter. And I think that he's dodging a humongous bullet, whereas Brian's friend literally took it in the chest and now has to recover from a much more harrowing experience.
Well, I just think about this, and I first off, I mean, you think about the selfishness involved here. I mean, let's assume just I know that you guys aren't going to agree with me on this, and I don't know if I believe this myself, but let's give her the benefit of the doubt and say that everything is fine with their relationship, but she's just not sure she wants to get married and have kids, and she just sees this as a great career move. Maybe that's all it is.
Oh, come on.
Hey, I said just go with me.
Okay,
just go with me.
I'm saying that she clearly was saying to him, I can't wait to marry you. I want to have children. I mean, they've obviously discussed it.
I know. But go with me. I'm just saying it's a hypothetical. Anyway.
Well, I'm here to tell you that I don't believe for 1 second that she was one person and now she's another. She will probably end this relationship with him and go on to get married and have children with somebody else. She's just outgrown this relationship.
That's why I called it a hypothetical. So go with me on the hypothetical for just another 5 seconds, Pam.
Okay, sure.
Let's just say that all she's doing is she wants to move to California. She's got a great job offer. So come with me, honey. And let's assume that that's the case, just for the sake of this argument.
Okay.
Is there a shot? Is there a shot? And if he stays back, he said, what is it? What did he say? Should I cut my losses and hope the separation brings her to her senses? Does absence make the heart grow fonder? Is there a shot at that?
Yes, sometimes yes. And I think that is definitely what he should do. The real deal breaker for me was she's decided she doesn't want to have kids. You can't sell a future to somebody and then rip it away from them. If she was just moving, I'd have a whole different opinion. If she was just like, hey, this is the job of the career of my dreams. Will you please come with me? And everything else was still aligned. I would say, absolutely. If you don't mind moving, pack your bags and go. And they could probably have a great relationship wherever they ended. But like he said, he said, you know, that her core values had changed. If you change as a human being and you're not aligned with the person and you haven't married them yet, don't marry them and don't follow them across the country unless you have an extreme desire to live in California.
Yeah. The other thing about it is, and by the way, I agree with you. But the other thing that makes me just a little bit suspicious is the fact that he said that he paid most of their bills. Now, he didn't say he paid for her education. I don't know.
Right.
Like Brian's buddy paid off student loans and all that kind of stuff. He didn't say that. He said he paid most of our bills. So I don't know what that means, but it seems like they were at least living together.
Yeah, but I don't think that's not unusual, you know, my daughter is 29. So, you know, when she was going to college, she had quite a few girlfriends that were in relationships that kept going after graduation. And some of them were still in school. And I think that that's kind of common where somebody will pick up the bulk of the bills while the other one is going to school with the intention that once that person graduates, they're going to benefit financially from that person having a a bigger education. So I don't think that's a red flag, especially if they were talking about that.
Yeah, no, I was going somewhere else. I was saying that it seems like he's kind of a simp.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so
No,
he's paying all the bills. And so it makes me wonder if he just convinced himself that she agreed that they wanted to get married and have kids.
mm,
And because remember, he said, I guess you could say we're engaged.
that's true. I wasn't even thinking about the fact that he had not actually proposed to her. He probably didn't have any money for a ring because he was paying all the bills.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like they're just out of college. He's just out of college. So I assume like 4-year degree, he's probably got like a mid job. I mean, I would imagine that all their plans were for after she finished school, and seemingly her plans didn't involve him for after she finished school.
Okay. So you're 100% convinced that her plans didn't change, that the whole time she's been planning her exit.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that at some point in their relationship, she changed and was no longer happy with this relationship and was ready to move on. And if he wanted to, follow her, he was welcome. But I don't know. I never think that things start out malicious. So no, I don't think it was the whole time, but somewhere in those 6 years, she changed what she wanted.
Yeah. So here's my bottom line on this. I agree. I don't think that she saw this guy and met him on a dating app or wherever they met, and said, "Hey, I'm going to free ride this guy all the way through my post grad." I don't think that's the case either. But
No.
at some point, she did. So here's my thinking. Fuck her.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah, 100%. But I think it all comes down to he needs to grow a pair. He's young. I mean, if you think about it, they've been 6 years together. He was a senior, so he was probably what, 21, 22
Right.
when they met. So he's like 27. They don't have kids together, dude. Cut your losses. Get out.
Right. And if he's right, if she moves and is like, oh my God, he was the one for me, and begs him to take her back, maybe she can move back at that point and show him that he's worth more than just dumping him and moving to another state.
Yeah. Because if he said he's got a great sales gig, and if he's got a great sales gig, and, if he moved to California, now he's got to start all over. Probably.
Right.
He's probably have to get a new job or at least a new territory. So
we're on the same page. We think that he should let her go. Hey, you know what? In the end, he'll see exactly what she wanted from him with how she behaves after she moves.
Yeah. What's that old saying? If you love someone, set them free. And if they loved you, they'll come back, or some shit like that.
I think it was, if they don't come back, find them and shoot them. But something like that.
Yeah.
There's two versions of that. But yeah. Set her free.
Set her free. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Set her free. That's the right answer.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I think that keep those letters coming, you guys.
Please. We love reading them, and we love reading them on the podcast.
Yeah, I think they're a lot of fun. It gives us a lot to talk about, a lot to think about, and well, again, thank you for sending them. So, guys, I think we're going to call that a show today. Thank you for listening.
Tom, don't forget to give them our email.
Oh, I'm getting there.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Yeah. Make sure you're sending us emails at talkingphase@gmail.com. That's how you slide into our DMs. We're not going to read TikTok comments as much going forward. So if you want to get on the air with us, we'd love to have you, but it needs to come to our email. We'll throw a few comments here and there from TikTok, but bottom line, send us emails. Thank you for listening.
Nothing's off limits.
Right. Yeah. Please rate and review if you like what you're hearing. Give us a 5-star rating, thumbs up, whatever it is on your app, and write a review. Some reason reviews are as important as the actual thumbs up or the 5 stars. Those are the two things that really help. Please share this with your friends and family. If you like what we're doing, they will too. So make sure you join us every Friday. A new episode drops every Friday morning at 8:00 Eastern, give or take, depending on the platform. And with that, Pam, anything else? Anything you want to say before we call it a day?
No, I'm excited to go to the pool.
Oh, have fun. I hope you get that tan. Don't get sunburned. Everybody, it's Pam and Tom signing off.
Have a great day.